I'm Dr. James Neihof, President of the Kentucky Association of School Superintendents, and I'm excited to introduce this video to you to talk about the why, the what, and the how of advocacy for public education.
One of the things that we're trying to do is empower professional educators to be strong, confident, engaged, professional, and passionate advocates for public education. So why don't you help us define what is advocacy and why is it so important and how is it different from politics?
Absolutely. So much of education is, we often say nonpartisan, and it should be. So we want to make it less about politics and more about just the success of operating good schools for all of our students. When you really think of the word advocacy and what that means, it really comes down to persuasion. The public school system is very complex. It has a lot of moving parts and a lot of partners. We need the support of our legislators and state actors and funding from the state. We need support from our federal lawmakers. We get some federal funding. Above all, we need local support from parents and others in the community. No one piece of education can work well without the support and the cooperation of all these other pieces. And so in advocacy, in persuasion, in trying to meet with someone that you need the support from to explain what you need and why it's important and why you need their help is really at the heart of what advocacy even means. It's not only about lobbying, it's not only about meeting with someone on some political issue. It's really all-encompassing and touches everything that we do, everyone in the school system.
This place is to be revered for the institution that it is. I do believe that most of the lawmakers here are guided by that principle that it's institution first. And when I say that, I don't mean a building. I mean this fundamental part of our democracy and the process by which lawmaking is done, that there should be a high level of discipline and dignity that's exercised by everybody that's in these spaces, from the media to those who are activists and advocates to the lawmakers and staff. All of us are a part of this civil society. And in order to move your position forward, lawmakers respond when they know that they're being respected, that they're also being heard, and that there is a two-way level of communication that is first fundamentally grounded in mutual respect. And so, if anything, it's the golden rule. Treat others as you yourself would want to be treated, and that will go a long way in helping to move an agenda or an idea forward.
Well, I think that the best way to advocate that will get your message read is to communicate personally, not a form letter. Send your own needs and desires and what you would really want your representative to do on your behalf. When you start getting all those form letters, I know people think that's overwhelming to us, but there's no way that you can click through all of those. So I think if you just are very personal, show your passion, respectful, ask to meet, but just establish that relationship in written form as well. But the form letters and everything, really and truly, to be totally honest, aren't effective. But when I get a letter from someone or an email from someone that has sat down and said, this is my objective, this is what I want you to understand, that really resonates with me.
When anyone calls that LRC message line, that, as I said, a human being operator will answer and say, this is the message line, who do you want to leave a message for? You can say, well, I want it for all legislators. I want all of them to receive this message, or only my legislator. If you don't know who they are, they'll say, well, what's your name and address? I will use that to look up and find, your legislator is Representative Jane Doe. So then they will take your message, whatever it is, they will transcribe it exactly verbatim, type it up, and send it in an email to your legislator or print it out on a piece of green paper that everyone at the Capitol calls green slips. And a stack of green slips, sort of at the end of every day, will be hand delivered to the offices of all of the legislators with your name and contact information for them to reach back out to you and your exact message that you left. As I said, some legislators have moved on to receiving all of that by email. Some still prefer a stack of those green slips of paper every day. So that is probably the easiest way for any Kentuckian to get a message directly to their legislator.
At the end of the day, the most powerful thing that you can do to support our kids is to tell their stories. And so there may be a bill that comes up, let's say, about transportation. We can argue dollars all day long about in the budget, but if you have a story about a kid who is directly impacted by the cuts in transportation funding or the cuts to instructional resource funding, you are obligated to tell that kid's story. Those are the stories that ring true. They're the stories that will really help bring those numbers off the page and bring those bills to life for these legislators so that they understand that they're truly making decisions that impact our kids and our families. And so that's the first thing I would do is say, whatever you're passionate about, bring it to life for the people who represent you. Every one of you has a House representative and every one of you has a senator. We also all collectively have the House Education Committee and the Senate Education Committee. So I would recommend that you don't stop by just calling your representative and senator, that you actually reach out to everyone who is represented on the House Education and Senate Education Committees, because they need to hear from you as well. That is something else that I would kind of advocate for, because they need to hear from voices from across Kentucky, because while they do represent their district, they ultimately are representing education from across Kentucky as well.